The screen flickered with images of death. Dr. Heejin sat in her small lab on the outer edge of human space and watched her people die. Again. The footage came from the battle at Proxima Station, recorded just 3 hours ago. She watched human soldiers fire everything they had at the enemy. Plasma bolts that could melt through starship hulls, railgun rounds moving at impossible speeds, even a small nuclear device that turned half the station into vapor. Nothing worked. The Caltherian warriors walked through the fire. Their armor, a living thing bonded to their flesh, simply healed. Bullets flattened against their chest and fell to the ground. Plasma washed over them like water. The nuclear blast pushed them back a few steps, and then they stood up and kept walking. The Shieldborn, they called themselves. Warriors who could not be killed. Hyejin paused the video. One of the soldiers on screen was firing at close range, his rifle pressed almost against a Shieldborn's chest. She could see the terror in his young face. The bullets did nothing. The warrior reached out almost lazily and snapped the soldier's neck. She closed her eyes. That soldier looked like her brother. The Caltherians had ruled the galaxy for 12,000 years. 12,000 years of perfect victory. They had conquered 46 other species before humans ever left Earth. Every species tried to fight. Every species failed. The Shieldborn armor was their secret, their unbeatable advantage. Scientists across the galaxy had studied it, tried to copy it, tried to break it. No one succeeded. Now it was humanity's turn to fail. Heejin opened her eyes and checked the time. In 6 hours, the United Earth Coalition would hold an emergency meeting. Everyone knew what they would discuss. Surrender. The Caltherian Emperor had given them 6 months to decide. Submit to Caltherian rule or be erased like dust in the wind. Her computer chimed. A message from Earth, from home. She didn't want to open it. She knew what it would say. But her hand moved anyway, clicking the icon. The message was short. Tae-yang killed in action. Proxima Station. I'm sorry, Mom. Heejin stared at the words. Her younger brother. The one who joined the military against their mother's wishes. The one who promised he would be safe, that the war wouldn't reach him. Dead. Killed by something that couldn't be killed. She pulled up the Proxima Station footage again. This time she searched through all the files, every camera angle. It took her an hour, but she found him. Tae-yang in his combat armor, standing in a hallway with 3 other soldiers. A Shieldborn warrior came around the corner. They all fired together. Hundreds of rounds. The warrior's armor rippled like water, absorbing everything. The video ended when the warrior reached them. Hyejin sat in the darkness of her lab for a long time. Outside her window, stars burned in the endless night. Somewhere out there, the Caltherian armada was moving toward Earth. 5,000 warships, 100,000 Shieldborn. An unstoppable force that had crushed every civilization it encountered. Her computer chimed again. This time a public broadcast. The Caltherian Emperor himself speaking to all of humanity. The Emperor's face filled the screen. He looked almost human, except for the silver lines that ran across his skin like veins of metal. His armor was different from the regular Shieldborn. It looked like living crystal shifting colors in the light. Humans of Earth, he said. His voice was calm, almost bored. You are the 47th species to stand before the Dominion. 46 came before you. All of them tried to fight. All of them failed. Do you know why? He paused as if expecting an answer. Because no gun can break us. No blade can pierce us. No bomb can harm us. We have perfected the art of war. We are evolution's final answer to conflict. You cannot win. You cannot even hurt us, the Emperor smiled. It wasn't cruel. It was worse than cruel. It was indifferent. You have 6 months to surrender. Choose wisely. We offer you a place in our empire. Refuse and you will be removed. These are the only 2 options. There is no third path. No miracle weapon. No last-minute salvation. 46 species learned this truth. You will learn it too. The broadcast ended. Hyejin sat in silence. Around her, she could hear other researchers in the station talking, crying, arguing. Some wanted to surrender immediately. Others wanted to keep fighting. But she could hear the despair in all their voices. They had seen the footage. They knew the truth. No gun could break the Shieldborn. She looked at the frozen image of her brother on her screen. Tae-yang had died because humanity kept trying the same thing over and over. Better guns, bigger bombs, stronger weapons. Every species in the galaxy had tried that approach. Every species failed. What if that was the problem? Hee-jin stood up and walked to her whiteboard. She picked up a marker and wrote 3 words. No gun works. She stared at those words for a long time. Everyone in the galaxy accepted this as fact. The Caltharians had proven it thousands of times. Their armor could survive anything. But was that really true? She thought about her research. She had spent 10 years studying weapons, trying to make better versions of things that already existed. Faster bullets, hotter plasma, more efficient explosives. That was what every weapons scientist did. Make the old things better. What if better wasn't enough? What if they needed different? Hee-jin picked up her personal communicator and started making calls. She needed people, not the famous scientists who worked for the military, not the respected researchers who published in all the journals. She needed the strange ones. The ones who got laughed at. The ones whose ideas were too weird, too impractical, too crazy. She needed people who thought differently. The first call went to Daewon, a physicist who had been fired from 3 universities for wasting time on useless theoretical nonsense. The second went to Subin, a biologist who studied bacteria and tardigrades instead of weapons. Then Jae-min, an AI specialist who believed computers could think. Then Nari, a mining engineer. Then Kite, a military strategist who had been kicked out for suggesting tactics that wasted resources. Each of them thought she was crazy. Each of them said yes anyway, because what did they have to lose? The galaxy had 6 months left. Maybe less. Hee-jin looked at her brother's face one more time. Then she closed the file and opened a new project folder. She titled it, The Heretic's Arsenal. If no gun could break the Shieldborn, then she would build something that wasn't a gun. She would build 10 things that weren't guns. And maybe, just maybe, the galaxy's impossible problem would meet humanity's impossible solution. The abandoned mining station smelled like rust and old air filters. Hee-jin stood in what used to be the main processing center, watching her team arrive one by one. The station floated in the asteroid belt, far from Earth, far from any military base. No one would bother them here. No one would tell them their ideas were stupid. Daewon came first. He was thin and nervous, carrying 3 bags of equipment that looked like they might explode at any moment. He had wild hair and wilder eyes, the kind of person who forgot to eat when he was working on a problem. You really think we can do this? He asked, setting down his bags carefully. I think we have to try, Hee-jin said. Subin arrived next, smaller and quieter. She carried a single case of biological samples. Hee-jin knew that case contained some of the strangest life forms on Earth. Bacteria that lived in volcanic vents, organisms that survived in pure acid, tiny creatures called tardigrades that could live in the vacuum of space. If the military finds out we're doing this, they'll shut us down, Subin said. They think I'm wasting time studying microbes while the galaxy burns. The military is busy building bigger guns, Hee-jin replied. Let them. We're going to build something else. Jae-min showed up third. He was young, maybe 25, with quick hands that never stopped moving. He immediately started setting up computers in the corner. I brought 6 AI cores, he said. Military says AI can't help with weapons. They're wrong. They're always wrong about AI. Nari came with welding equipment and enough tools to build a small factory. She was broad-shouldered and practical, the kind of person who could look at a broken machine and see how to fix it in seconds. I hope you know what you're asking for, she said. Mining equipment isn't exactly weapon grade. That's exactly why I need you, Hee-jin said. Kite arrived last. He was older than the others, with gray in his hair and scars on his hands. He had been a colonel once before the military discharged him for wasting resources on experimental tactics. He looked around the station and nodded slowly. So this is where humanity makes its last stand? A floating piece of junk in the middle of nowhere? This is where we try something new, Hee-jin corrected. She gathered them in the center of the room. 5 people. 5 crazy people who didn't fit anywhere else. She pulled up the video of the Proxima Station battle on a large screen. Watch, she said. They watched in silence. Bullets bouncing off armor. Plasma washing away like rain. Explosions that did nothing but push the Shieldborn back a step. The soldiers dying one by one. When it ended, Daewon spoke first. The armor regenerates faster than we can damage it. Molecular restructuring on a quantum level. It's impossible to break with conventional weapons. Exactly, Hee-jin said. The entire galaxy keeps trying to break it with conventional weapons. That's why everyone loses. So what do we do? Kitai asked. If conventional weapons don't work, what does? Heejin walked to a whiteboard and drew a simple picture. A gun firing at a shield. Then she crossed out the gun. We stopped thinking like the galaxy. The Caltherians built the perfect defense against everything the galaxy knows how to build. They studied every weapon, every tactic, every strategy. They made themselves immune to all of it. She drew something new on the board. It didn't look like a gun. It looked like something strange, something wrong. So we build things they haven't seen, things they didn't prepare for, things that shouldn't exist. Subin leaned forward. You want to build impossible weapons. I want to build unexpected weapons, Hyejin said. The shield-borne armor is biological. It's alive. Subin, what kills living things? Disease, poison, predators, environmental factors, starvation. Subin's eyes widened. You want to make the armor sick? That's one idea, Hyejin said. She turned to Day One. The armor regenerates using quantum entanglement. What happens if we disrupt that entanglement? Day One started pacing. If you could break the quantum connection, but that would require… Wait. He grabbed a marker and started writing equations on the board. If we could induce quantum decoherence at exactly the right frequency… Nari, Hyejin continued. You break rocks for a living. Huge rocks. What if armor is just another material to break? Nari grinned. Resonance. Everything has a frequency. Match that frequency and you can shake anything apart, even living armor. Jamin, what if we attack their minds instead of their bodies? The young AI specialist looked up from his computers. Consciousness disruption. If the shield-borne armor is bonded to their nervous system, break the connection. Make them unable to control it. Kite, what if we don't try to kill them at all? The old strategist nodded slowly. Containment, freezing, removal from the battlefield. Dead enemies are just one type of defeated enemy. Hyejin stepped back and looked at her team. They were all thinking now, ideas flowing. This was what she needed. Not people who knew the right answers. People who asked the wrong questions. The Caltherians said no gun can break them, she said. They're right. So we're not building guns. We're building 10 different things that break the rules. Over the next 3 weeks, they worked without stopping. The station became a maze of equipment, experiments, and failures. Lots of failures. Day One's quantum disruptor exploded 7 times before he figured out the right configuration. Subin's biological agent killed 3 rats and a computer monitor before she got the targeting right. Jamin's consciousness disruptor gave everyone in the station terrible headaches. Nari's resonance cannon shook the entire station so hard that they thought it would fall apart. But slowly, impossibly, things started to work. Hyejin watched Subin examine a sample under a microscope. Look at this, Subin said. Tardigrades, tiny creatures from Earth. They can survive in space, in boiling water, in pure radiation. They're almost indestructible. Like the shield-borne, Hyejin said. Exactly. So I studied how they survive. And I found something interesting. They shut down their metabolism completely. They become almost dead. What if we could force the shield-borne armor to do the same thing? She showed Hyejin a small vial of silver liquid. This is a modified virus. It targets the specific proteins in Caltherian biotech. It doesn't kill the armor. It makes the armor think it's in an extreme environment. The armor shuts down to protect itself. And the warrior inside? Exposed, vulnerable human. 2 months passed. The coalition's deadline grew closer. Earth prepared for surrender or extinction. News broadcasts showed riots in major cities. Some people wanted to fight to the end. Others wanted to surrender and hope for mercy. Politicians argued. Military leaders made impossible plans. On the station, Hyejin's team built their impossible weapons. Admiral Sang-hoon visited once, escorted by 6 soldiers. He was tall and hard with medals on his chest and doubt in his eyes. He walked through the station looking at their work like it was a child's science project. This is what you're doing with our resources? He asked. Quantum theory and biology lessons? We're about to face the largest military force in galactic history, and you're playing with microscopes. We're building weapons that can't be stopped by shield-borne armor, Hyejin said calmly. The shield-borne armor can't be stopped by anything. That's the point. Sang-hoon picked up one of Day One's prototypes. This looks like it was built from spare parts. It was, Day One said. Spare parts arranged in a way that shouldn't work. But it does. Sang-hoon put the device down carefully. You have 3 months before the Caltherian armada reaches Earth. If your impossible weapons aren't ready by then, surrender is our only option." He left without another word. Kaite watched him go. "He doesn't believe we can do it. No one believes we can do it," Hyejin said. "That's why we're the ones who have to try." That night, Hyejin stood alone in the observation deck. Through the window, she could see Earth, a small blue dot in the distance. Home, where her mother lived, where her brother died. The galaxy had tried for 12,000 years to break the Shieldborn. Every conventional weapon failed. Every traditional tactic failed. The Caltherians were unbeatable because they had prepared for everything the galaxy could throw at them. But they hadn't prepared for desperate humans in an abandoned mining station, building weapons that shouldn't exist. Hyejin smiled in the darkness. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had nothing left to lose and everything to prove. "No gun can break you," she whispered to the stars, "so we won't use guns." The first weapon looked like a broken telescope attached to a power generator. Daewon called it the entropy rifle. Hyejin called it insane. "Explain it again," she said, staring at the device. "In simple words." Daewon's hands moved excitedly as he talked. "Time isn't constant. It moves faster or slower depending on gravity, speed, energy. Einstein proved this. What if we could speed up time in a small area? Just a few meters? What happens to something in that area? It ages fast, very fast. The Shieldborn armor regenerates by healing damage. But healing takes time. If we accelerate time around the armor, it heals so fast that it burns through its own energy. It runs out of fuel. It dies." Subin added her weapon next to Daewon's. Hers looked like a grenade filled with silver liquid. "This is a modified virus. It targets Caltherian biotech specifically. Once it touches the armor, it reprograms the symbiote's basic functions." "Reprograms it to do what?" Kaite asked. "To attack its host. The armor thinks the Shieldborn warrior is a foreign invader. The armor tries to remove the threat. The armor kills its own warrior. Slowly, painfully, but yes." Jamin's weapon was the strangest. It looked like a radio speaker connected to a computer. This broadcast a signal directly into the Caltherian nervous system. It doesn't damage the body. It damages the mind's ability to control the body. The warrior becomes paralyzed. The armor becomes just dead weight. Nari showed them a cannon that looked like it belonged in a mining operation. This generates sound waves at frequencies that match the molecular structure of Shieldborn armor. Everything vibrates. Everything has a resonance frequency. Find that frequency, and you can shake something until it falls apart. I've used this principle to break apart asteroids. Armor is just another material. Over 4 months, the team built 10 weapons. Each one exploited a different weakness, a different assumption. The Caltherians had made their armor immune to every conventional weapon. But these weren't conventional weapons. Weapon 5 was a mine that generated a temporal stasis field. It didn't kill. It froze targets in time, making them unable to move, unable to think, unable to do anything except exist in a single frozen moment forever. Weapon 6 was a swarm of microscopic machines. Nanophages, Jamin called them. They were programmed to consume only Caltherian biotech. Once released, they would spread and multiply, eating through armor like tiny piranhas. Weapon 7 was the most dangerous. It attacked the quantum entanglement that connected the armor to the warrior's nervous system. Breaking that connection caused intense pain and left the warrior unable to control their own body. Weapon 8 bent gravity in small, precise ways. It created micro-singularities that pulled matter in different directions at once. The armor could heal from damage, but it couldn't heal from being pulled into 1,000 pieces simultaneously. Weapon 9 was chemical. It broke down the molecular bonds that let the armor exist in its quantum-entangled state. The armor didn't break. It simply stopped being armor and became ordinary dead tissue. Weapon 10 was psychological. Kite's idea. It broadcast patterns that triggered deep evolutionary fears in Caltherian brains. Not pain, not damage, pure existential terror. Warriors who had never felt fear suddenly couldn't function. "We need to test them," Hyejin said. They all looked at her. Testing meant finding a Shieldborn warrior. That meant combat. That meant risk. "There's a Caltherian patrol near the outer rim," Kaite said quietly. "Small group. 3 warriors, 1 ship. They're scanning planets looking for resources. We could intercept them." "That's an act of war," Nari said. "We're already at war," Kite replied. "We just haven't admitted it yet." They prepared carefully. 1 week of planning. 1 week of checking every system, every calculation, every backup plan. Then they took their small research ship and headed for the outer rim. The Caltherian patrol never saw them coming. Kite had spent 30 years learning military tactics. He knew how to approach silently, how to disable communications, how to board a ship without raising alarms. They captured one shield-borne warrior without firing a shot. Gas through the ventilation system. Ancient, simple, effective. The warrior woke up in their testing chamber bound by titanium cables. Not that the cables would hold him for long. Shieldborne could break through titanium easily. Hyjin stood in front of the warrior. He was massive, even without his armor's enhancement. His skin had the same silver lines as the Emperor. His eyes held nothing but contempt. "You are insects," he said in perfect human language. "Release me or die." "We're going to give you a chance," Hyjin said. "Surrender. Let us study your armor peacefully. No one has to get hurt," the warrior laughed. It was a terrible sound, full of certainty. "No gun can break us. 46 species have tried. All of them failed." "What makes you think you're different?" Hyjin nodded to Day One. The entropy rifle hummed to life. The air around the warrior's right arm began to shimmer. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then the armor on his arm started to glow. It was healing from nothing, regenerating from invisible damage, burning through energy at an incredible rate. The warrior tried to stop it. His armor was part of him, controlled by thought. But the temporal field made time move differently. His thoughts were too slow. The armor was too fast. After 30 seconds, the armor on his arm turned gray. Then it crumbled. Then it fell off in pieces, leaving bare skin underneath. The warrior stared at his exposed arm. For the first time in his life, part of him was vulnerable. "Impossible," he whispered. "Weapon 2, Hyjin said. Subin threw her grenade. It broke against the warrior's chest, splashing silver liquid across the armor. The warrior tried to brush it off, but it was already absorbing into the living tissue. Nothing happened for 5 seconds. Then the warrior screamed. His armor began to move on its own, tightening around his chest, squeezing. The symbiote thought its host was an enemy. It was trying to remove the threat by crushing the warrior inside. "Stop," the warrior shouted. "Stop it." Subin pressed a button. A second chemical spray neutralized the first. The armor relaxed. The warrior gasped for air. "Weapon 3, Hyjin said. Daewon activated a different device. This one made no sound. But suddenly the warrior's remaining armor began to flicker. It was there, then not there, then there again. Quantum decoherence. The armor was being forced to exist in 2 states at once. The molecular bonds couldn't hold. Within 15 seconds, the rest of the armor dissolved into fine dust. The warrior sat there, completely exposed. No armor, no protection. Just a person who could be hurt like anyone else. The chamber was silent except for the warrior's heavy breathing. Hyjin's team stared at their prisoner. They had done it. They had broken the unbreakable armor. Not with 1 weapon, with 3. And they had 7 more. "How?" the warrior asked. His voice had lost its certainty. "How did you do this?" "You prepared for every weapon the galaxy knows," Hyjin said. "You made yourself immune to guns, bombs, blades, fire, radiation, everything. You thought of every conventional attack." She picked up one of the devices. "We didn't build conventional attacks. We built things that shouldn't work. Things that don't make sense. Things that exploit what your armor is instead of what it does." The warrior looked at his bare arms. For 12,000 years, Shieldborn had been invincible. Now he was just a person who could bleed. "The Emperor will destroy you for this," he said quietly. "When he learns what you've done, he will bring the full might of the Dominion. You've won nothing. You've only ensured your own annihilation." "Maybe," Kaite said, "but now we know you can lose. That changes everything." They kept the warrior in a secure cell, treated his injuries, gave him food and water. They weren't cruel. They didn't need to be. They had proven their point. Hyjin sent the test results to Admiral Sang-hoon with a simple message. 10 weapons. All of them work. We need to mass produce immediately. The response came 6 hours later. Sang-hoon himself appearing on their view screen. His face was different now. Less doubt. More hope. "The Coalition Council wants to see a demonstration," he said. "They don't believe the data. They think it's fabricated. We have a Shieldborn prisoner who would disagree," Hyjin said. "Bring him. Bring your weapons. Bring proof." You have one chance to convince them. The transmission ended. Subin looked worried. If we take these weapons to Earth, if we show the Council what we've built, there's no going back. The Caltharians will find out. They'll send everything they have to destroy us before we can mass produce. They were already sending everything, Nari said. Now at least we have something to fight with. Day One was running calculations on his computer. Mass production will be difficult. These weapons are complex. They require rare materials, precise calibration, specialized manufacturing. We can't make millions of them in 3 months. We don't need millions, Kite said. We need enough to make them afraid. Enough to prove they can be beaten. Fear is a weapon too. Hyejin looked at her 10 impossible devices. They were crude, experimental, barely functional. But they worked. They had broken armor that had never been broken before. They had defeated warriors who had never been defeated. The galaxy said no gun could break the Shieldborn. The galaxy was right. But these weren't guns. Pack everything, Hyejin said. We're going to Earth. We're going to show them that impossible is just another word for difficult. News traveled fast across the galaxy. Within days, every species under Caltharian rule knew what happened at the asteroid station. 300 Shieldborn defeated, warriors who had never lost now losing, armor that couldn't be broken now breaking. The rebellion started on Helion Prime. The species there, conquered 200 years ago, rose up against their Caltharian overseers. They didn't have humanity's weapons, but they had hope. Hope was sometimes enough to start a fire. The Caltharians crushed the rebellion in 3 days, but another one started on Viridian 7. Then another on the outer colonies of the Markan system. Small fires everywhere, each one fueled by the same message. The Shieldborn could be defeated. The Caltharian Emperor watched from his throne world and made his decision. No more small forces. No more testing. He would take his entire armada, his entire military might, and he would erase humanity from existence. He would make an example so terrible that no species would ever dare rebel again. 5,000 warships left Caltharian space. They moved in formation, a wall of metal and power that filled sensor screens across dozens of star systems. Every species watched them pass and remembered why they surrendered. This was the force that had broken 46 civilizations. This was unstoppable. On Earth, humanity prepared for extinction or miracle. They weren't sure which would come first. Production of the 10 weapons had reached 48% of military forces. Nearly half of humanity's soldiers could now hurt the Shieldborn. It wasn't enough. Everyone knew it wasn't enough. But it was better than nothing. Hyejin stood in the Coalition Command Center watching the Armada approach on long-range sensors. 3 weeks until they arrived. 3 weeks to finish preparations. 3 weeks to accept that this might be the end. Admiral Sang-hoon addressed the entire military force via broadcast. 50,000 soldiers on ships, stations, and defensive platforms. 50,000 humans facing 100,000 Shieldborn. Most of you will die in this battle, he said. His voice was steady, honest. The Caltharians outnumber us. They're better trained. They've been perfecting warfare for 12,000 years. By every logical measure, we should lose, he paused. But 6 months ago, by every logical measure, the Shieldborn couldn't be hurt. A small team of crazy scientists proved that wrong. They built 10 weapons that should be impossible. Those weapons work. I've seen them work. You're equipped with them now. Another pause. The Caltharians think they're invincible. They've thought that for 12,000 years. We're going to teach them that invincible just means you haven't lost yet. We're going to show them what humans do when we're cornered. We adapt, we improvise. We find ways that shouldn't exist. He looked directly at the camera. Some of us won't see tomorrow, but humanity will. Because today we prove that nothing is unbeatable. Today we break the unbreakable. Today we fight like humans. The transmission ended. 50,000 soldiers on 50 different ships prepared for battle. They loaded the strange weapons. They read the strange manuals. They practiced with equipment that seemed like it was built from spare parts and desperation. Because it was. Hyejin's team split up across the fleet. Day One went to the science vessel Horizon, where he could coordinate the quantum weapons. Subin boarded the medical frigate Sanctuary, managing biological warfare. Jamin stayed in the command center, running the AI systems that controlled the consciousness disruptors. Nari joined the engineering corps on the defense platform Anvil. Kite took command of a strike group. 12 small ships armed with multiple weapon types. He Jin remained on the flagship Defiance with Admiral Sang Hoon, coordinating everything. The Caltherian armada arrived on schedule. They came out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system, their ships arranged in perfect formation. It was meant to be intimidating. It worked. 5,000 capital ships, the sensor officer reported. 300,000 smaller craft. Estimated shield-borne boarding forces 150,000, Sang Hoon looked at He Jin. They brought more than intelligence suggested. They're scared, He Jin said. They know we can hurt them now. So they brought everything. Are we ready? He Jin looked at the tactical display. Human forces were scattered around Earth, using the planet's orbital platforms as defensive positions. 48% of soldiers had the new weapons. The other 52% had conventional arms that would do almost nothing against shield-borne. No, she said honestly, but we're going to fight anyway. The Emperor's ship was at the center of the armada. It was massive, 10 times larger than any human vessel. His face appeared on every screen in the solar system. Every human, every ship, every station saw the same broadcast. Humans of Earth, the Emperor said, you have cost me warriors. You have cost me time. You have cost me patience. I offered you surrender. You chose death. Very well. I will show the galaxy what happens to species who defy the Dominion. His face disappeared. The armada began moving forward. All ships, Sang Hoon ordered. Engage at will. Show them our hospitality. The battle began. Human ships were faster, more maneuverable. They struck from unexpected angles using tactics that didn't make sense to Caltherian strategists. They would fire, retreat, circle back, fire again. They didn't try to hold position. They didn't fight fair. Kite's strike group hit a Caltherian cruiser from 6 directions at once. Each ship fired a different weapon. Entropy rifles aged the ship's hull until it crumbled. Resonance cannons shook the internal structure apart. Nanophages ate through the armor. The cruiser broke apart without firing a single shot. But for every Caltherian ship destroyed, 2 more kept coming. The real battle began when the shield-borne launched their boarding pods. Thousands of warriors, each one a perfect killing machine, crashing into human ships and stations. They came through walls like they were paper. They killed with terrifying efficiency. Then they met soldiers with the new weapons. A shield-borne squad breached the defense platform anvil. 20 warriors against 40 human soldiers. In any previous battle, the shield-borne would have won in minutes. But 15 of the human soldiers had biological agent grenades. 10 had consciousness disruptors. 5 had portable resonance emitters. The fight was brutal and strange. Shield-borne armor dissolved. Warriors collapsed paralyzed. Some froze in temporal stasis. Some were simply shaken apart by sound they couldn't hear. The shield-borne won that battle, but 20 warriors were reduced to 7. And those 7 were scared. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. Shield-borne forces that should have easily won were struggling. Some were losing. The unbeatable warriors were dying. The Emperor watched from his flagship and felt something he hadn't felt in 1,000 years. Doubt. He made a decision. He would enter the battle himself. His armor was special, built over centuries, modified with technologies that went beyond standard shield-borne equipment. He was stronger, faster, more protected than any warrior in his empire. The Emperor's personal craft launched. Behind him came his elite guard, 100 shield-borne warriors in armor almost as advanced as his own. Priority target detected, the sensor officer announced. It's the Emperor himself. Sang Hoon looked at He Jin.
Can we stop him?
I don't know, she said. His armor is beyond anything we've tested against, but we have to try. She opened channels to every unit equipped with the 10 weapons. All forces converge on the Emperor's position. Hit him with everything. Every weapon type, maximum power, simultaneous deployment. Ships moved into position. It took 10 minutes of desperate fighting, but they managed to surround the Emperor's craft. 12 human ships, each one equipped with multiple weapon systems. Fire everything, He Jin ordered. Space itself seemed to warp around the Emperor's ship. Temporal fields, quantum disruption, biological agents, resonance waves, gravity shears, consciousness attacks, all of them hitting at once. The Emperor's armor, the pinnacle of 12,000 years of advancement, tried to adapt. For 45 seconds it held. The Emperor's armor regenerated, adjusted, compensated. It was the most advanced defensive technology in the galaxy. For 45 seconds it was enough. Then it wasn't. The armor failed. Not all at once, but in spreading cracks and failures. First the temporal shielding, then the quantum coherence, then the biological resistance. Layer by layer, the perfect armor fell apart. The Emperor's ship went dark. Emergency systems failed. Life support fluctuated. Across the battlefield, every Caltherian sensor registered the same impossible fact. The Emperor's armor had failed. The Emperor himself was vulnerable. The Armada stopped. 5,000 warships, 300,000 fighters, 150,000 shieldborne, all of them frozen by shock. Their Emperor, their living god, the one who had never been defeated, was sitting in a disabled ship with failed armor. "Cease fire," Sang-Hoon ordered. Broadcasting to all Caltherian forces, his face appeared on their screens. "Your Emperor is defeated. Your perfect armor is broken. You can surrender now, or you can die learning the same lesson. Choose." For a long moment, nothing happened. The Armada hung in space, uncertain. Then slowly, Caltherian ships began to power down their weapons. Not all of them. Some kept fighting, unable to accept defeat. Some fled to distant space. But most of them, thousands of ships and warriors, stopped fighting. The Battle of Earth was over. Outside the station, stars burned in the endless dark. Somewhere among those stars, the Coalition Council chamber was built to hold 500 people. Today it held 5,000, all crammed together, all desperate for hope. Ye-Jin stood at the center with her team, surrounded by screens showing their test results. The shieldborne prisoner stood in a containment field nearby, still unarmored, still vulnerable. Admiral Sang-Hoon spoke first. "Council members, what you're about to see will seem impossible. I didn't believe it myself until I saw the proof. This small team has done what the entire galaxy failed to do for 12,000 years. The lights dimmed, video footage played, the test chamber, the shieldborne warrior in his full armor, confident and mocking. Then the weapons activating one by one, the armor failing. The warrior's scream, his complete vulnerability. When the lights came back on, the chamber was silent. A counselor stood up. He was old, with white hair and tired eyes. "This is fabricated. It has to be. No one breaks shieldborne armor. The prisoner is here," Ye-Jin said calmly. "Ask him yourself." All eyes turned to the Caltherian warrior. He stood straight despite his defeat, despite his exposed skin. "It's real," he said quietly. "They broke my armor with weapons I've never seen before. Weapons that shouldn't exist." Another counselor, a woman with sharp features, leaned forward. "Even if this is real, even if these weapons work, can we produce them? How many can we make before the Armada arrives?" Daiwan stepped forward. "That's the problem. These weapons are complex. The entropy rifle requires quantum processors that take weeks to calibrate. The biological agents need specialized labs. The nanophages need rare Earth elements we can only get from 3 mining colonies. If we started, today we could maybe equip 20% of our military before the Caltherians arrive." 20%? Another counselor shouted. "They have 100,000 shieldborne. We have what, 50,000 soldiers? Even if we equip all of them, we're still outnumbered." "Numbers don't matter if you can't be killed," Kite said. "One shieldborne could kill 100 regular soldiers, but one soldier with our weapons can kill a shieldborne. That changes the math." The argument started. Some counselors wanted to immediately authorize mass production. Others thought it was too risky, too expensive, too uncertain. Some still wanted to surrender. The voices got louder, angrier. Ye-Jin waited for a break in the noise. Then she spoke, her voice cutting through the chaos. "You asked us to build a gun that could break them. We built 10. But here's the truth. We didn't win by being stronger. We won by being weirder. The Caltherians prepared for every conventional strategy. They didn't prepare for the strange things humans do when we're desperate." She pulled up a star map. "The Caltherians have conquered 46 species. All of them are still alive, serving the Dominion, building their ships, mining their resources. Those species tried to fight alone. They lost alone. What if we don't fight alone?" "What are you suggesting?" Sang-Hoon asked. "We share the weapons. Every species the Caltherians conquered, we give them the tools to fight back. We turn the entire Dominion against itself. The chamber erupted again. Half the counselors loved the idea. Half thought it was suicide. A counselor in military uniform stood. "If we share these weapons, we lose our advantage. Other species could use them against us." "Other species could also use them against the Caltherians," Kaite countered. "Right now, we're about to lose everything. Sharing these weapons gives us allies, it gives us a chance." The vote took 3 hours. In the end, the council authorized mass production, but refused to share the weapons. Humanity would fight, but humanity would fight alone. Kite pulled Hyejin aside after the meeting. "This is wrong. We could have allies, we could have support." "The council is afraid," Hyejin said. "Afraid of trusting anyone. Afraid of being betrayed." "Fear makes people stupid," Kite said. "And we can't afford stupidity right now." Production began immediately. Factories across Earth and its colonies converted to military manufacturing. Scientists worked around the clock. Resources flowed. The United Earth Coalition, facing extinction, gave everything it had to build the impossible weapons. But it wasn't enough time. 3 months before the Armada's arrival, production was at 15%. 2 months, 23%. 1 month, 37%. The numbers kept climbing, but they weren't climbing fast enough. Then the Caltherians changed their plan. The warning came from a sensor station at the edge of human space. A small force of Caltherian ships moving fast, heading directly for the asteroid belt, heading for the abandoned mining station where the weapons were invented. "They know," Subin said, watching the tracking data. "Someone told them where we built the prototypes." The prisoner, Nari realized. He must have had a tracking implant we didn't detect. They've been watching us this whole time. 300 shield-borne warriors, heading to destroy the research station and everyone in it. Admiral Sang-hoon contacted them immediately. "Evacuate now. We can't get military support to you in time. Leave the equipment and run." Hyejin looked at her team. They were in the station's command center, surrounded by prototypes, research data, manufacturing equipment. Everything they needed to keep improving the weapons. Everything that would let them adapt if the Caltherians found countermeasures. "If we leave, they destroy all of this," she said. "We lose our research base. We lose our prototypes. We lose the ability to make new versions. If we stay, we die," Day-One said quietly. "Maybe," Hyejin said. "Or maybe we use this chance to field test everything at once." Kite was already pulling up tactical displays. "The station has defensive batteries, mining equipment we can weaponize, and narrow corridors that limit their numerical advantage. Plus, we have all 10 weapon types here. Most of them are prototypes," Jamin said, "untested in real combat. They might malfunction. Then we fix them while fighting," Nari said, loading a resonance cannon. "I've worked in worse conditions." They had 6 hours before the Caltherian force arrived. They used every minute. They converted mining lasers into defense turrets. They set up the temporal stasis mines in corridors. They prepared biological agent dispersal systems. They calibrated the quantum disruptors. They loaded the gravity weapons. The station became a maze of traps and weapons, each one designed to exploit a different weakness. When the Caltherian ships arrived, they didn't waste time with warnings. They just attacked. Boarding pods slammed into the station's hull. Shield-borne warriors poured through. The first group hit a temporal stasis field. 15 warriors frozen in mid-step, unable to move, unable to think, trapped forever in a single moment. The second group made it further. They reached the main corridor and ran into the resonance cannons. Nari had calculated the exact frequency of shield-borne armor. The sound was too low for humans to hear, but the warriors felt it. Their armor began to vibrate, then crack, then shatter. The third group adapted. They came through different entrances, spreading out using their training and experience. They were the Dominion's elite warriors, and they didn't panic. Hyejin watched from the command center as the battle unfolded on dozens of screens. "Release the nanophages. Corridor 7. Subin pressed a button. Microscopic machines, invisible to the naked eye, flooded the corridor. The warriors walked through them without knowing. The nanophages attached to their armor and began to eat. It took 60 seconds for the warriors to notice. By then, their armor was already failing, dissolving from the inside out. They're adapting, Kite said, watching the tactical display. They're avoiding the trapped corridors. They're learning. So we keep changing, Yejin said. Weapon 7. Target the group in the eastern section. Jaemin activated the consciousness disruptor. The warriors in that section suddenly stopped moving. Their minds couldn't control their bodies anymore. They stood frozen, paralyzed by their own nervous systems. The battle raged for 3 hours. Every weapon was used. Some worked perfectly. Some malfunctioned. The entropy rifle overloaded twice. The biological agent accidentally affected one of the station's air filters. The gravity weapon created a micro-singularity that nearly tore a hole in the station wall. But they were winning. 300 shield-borne warriors. The galaxy's perfect. Soldiers were being stopped by 6 humans with weapons that shouldn't exist. Then the commander arrived. He was bigger than the other warriors, his armor darker and more complex. He walked through the nanophages without effect. He ignored the resonance cannons. He had adapted his armor somehow, in the middle of combat. He's using a different version, Day One said, analyzing the scans. Military grade, not standard issue. Our weapons are calibrated for regular shieldborne. His armor is different. The commander reached the command center door. He placed his hand against the metal and began to push. The door was 6 inches of titanium. It groaned and started to bend. We need to go, Nari said. Now. Wait, Yejin said. She was staring at the weapon readouts, thinking fast. His armor is different, but it's still armor. It still uses the same basic principles. We just need to hit it with everything at once. The prototypes can't handle that much power, Day One said. Then they break, Yejin said. But they break while working. They set up all 10 weapons in the command center, pointing them at the door. Maximum power. Every exotic effect active at